Hello everyone and welcome back. Have you ever picked up an old coin, looked at the date and wondered if it might be worth more than just pocket change? Well, what if that simple 25-cent coin in your drawer could actually be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? Today, we read talking about one of the most talked about coins in American coin history, the 1965 Washington quarter dollar coin without a mint mark. At first glance, the 1965 quarter might look ordinary. It has the familiar profile of George Washington on the front and the majestic bald eagle on the back. But behind its simple appearance lies a fascinating story of change, confusion, and hidden value, a story that makes the 1965 quarter one of the most famous coins of modern America. To understand why this coin is so special, we need to go back to 1964, a year that changed U.S. coinage forever. Before 1965, all Washington quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. But rising silver prices in the early 1960s caused serious problems for the U.S. Treasury. The silver in coins became more valuable than the coins themselves. People began hoarding quarters, half dollars, and dimes, melting them down for their silver content. To solve this crisis, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, which eliminated silver from dimes and quarters entirely. Starting in 1965, quarters were made from a clad composition, an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded to a pure copper core. This change marked the end of an era for American silver coinage. Now here's where the story gets interesting. Because 1965 was the first year of this major metal change, collectors and the public were confused, and so was the mint. Millions of 1964 silver quarters were still being produced, while the new 1965 copper-nickel quarters were entering circulation. To prevent hoarding and speculation, the mint decided not to include mint marks on any coins from 1965 to 1967. That's why the 1965 quarter has no mint mark, even though most were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and many at the Denver and San Francisco mints too. The 1965 quarter became a symbol of transition from silver to clad, from tradition to modernity. But that's also what makes it so collectible today. Because of this unique period, there are error coins, transitional varieties, and rare strikes that are worth a small fortune. Among the most valuable are the 1965 silver planchet quarters coins that were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver blanks meant for 1964 quarters. These are incredibly rare. If you find a 1965 quarter that weighs around 6.25 grams instead of 5.67 grams, it could be one of these legendary errors, and that means you might be holding a coin worth $5,000 to $10,000, or even more depending on condition. But even without such errors, collectors treasure the 1965 quarter because it marks the turning point in U.S. coinage history. A standard 1965 quarter in fine condition might be worth around $1 to $3, depending on wear and eye appeals. In extremely fine or uncirculated condition, prices rise to $5 to $25. But for mint state examples graded MS65 or higher, the value can easily reach $100 to $500, and if it has a flawless MS67 or higher, the price can jump into the thousands. There's even one famous example, a 1965 quarter struck on a silver planchet that sold for over $12,000 at auction. And in some cases, unique transitional errors have fetched over $20,000 or more, depending on the grading and provenance. So what should you look for if you want to check your own 1965 quarters? First, weigh the coin. A standard copper-nickel clad quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams, while a silver quarter will weigh closer to 6.25 grams. You can use a small jewelry scale for this. Also, check the edge of the coin. Clad quarters show a copper-colored core along the edge, while silver quarters are solid white or gray with no copper stripe. Another clue to value is condition. If the coin's details like Washington's hair, the lettering, and the eagle's feathers are still sharp and unworn, that coin could easily fetch collector interest. Collectors also hunt for special error varieties such as Double die obverse or reverse, where the design appears slightly doubled off center strikes, where part of the design is missing or misaligned clipped planchets, where a small portion of the coin is cut off, and the extremely rare transitional silver strike. Any of these errors can dramatically increase a coin's value from a few dollars to thousands. What's amazing about the 1965 quarter is that it connects directly to a key moment in U.S. economic history when America shifted away from precious metals. Every 1965 quarter carries that legacy. It's not just a coin, it's a snapshot of a nation adapting to change. Even today, coin collectors across the United States are still searching rolls of quarters, hoping to find one of those rare 1965 silver strikes or high-grade mint state examples. They know that hidden treasures often come disguised as ordinary coins. If you ever find a shiny 1965 quarter with no mint mark, take a closer look. Check the color. Check the weight. Check for doubling or unusual features. You might just be holding one of the rarest modern quarters in existence. And even if it's not worth thousands, every 1965 quarter tells a story, the story of change, of innovation, and of the hidden value in everyday things. So next time you get a quarter in your change, don't be too quick to spend it. Because sometimes, history hides in plain sight right there in the palm of your hand. The 1965 Washington quarter, without a mint mark, remains one of the most fascinating and collectible coins in modern American history. It's a coin that changed the way U.S. money was made and continues to capture the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters to this day. Who knows? That small, worn quarter you find in an old jar could be worth much more than you think, maybe even your next big discovery. Thank you for watching the entire video. You can tell us in the comments what we should make the next video about.